What's up, everybody? Welcome to another. That was weird. What's up?
What's up?
I don't know. Maybe could that be the new end? That should be our new intro. What's up?
No.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Realtalk, and this is your host, Kyle.
And I am the co-host, Henry.
And he's already on a rampage to get fired today.
I try.
So I say let's go get rid of him.
Give it about 15 minutes. I wouldn't want to go too early. I mean, I still want enough to get halfway paid.
Yeah, you know, it's you're not getting
Half of zero is what?
all the pay.
All the pay.
All the pay.
Okay.
You know what? I'm gonna double your salary tonight.
Oh man, sweet.
So you have to pay me.
Hallelujah.
So we just want to say welcome, and tonight we are going to be continuing our conversation from the other week. So I am not made a liar. And we are going to be doing part 2 of license and registration, understanding the concept of authority. And it was, if you didn't get a chance to see it, you can go back on our social media, on Facebook and YouTube, and you can dive through all the videos there, and you will be able to see and listen to the part 1 where we talked about authority in the church and God's authority, and this is the continuation where we start to talk about our authority. That's right. I'm going to give you authority.
Where that video at?
You know what? I'm getting real tired of everybody asking me, "Where's the video at? Where's the video at?" You know, go back and watch some episodes, and you'll understand where I talked about where the video's at. So no, we're going to tonight. We're gonna give it a shot here, but we're gonna dive right into tonight's topic.
Yep.
Boom. So now you guys can see us. Woo!
I don't know if that's a blessing or not.
It's probably not. Especially the guy on the right.
So which one is right?
I don't know. You're colorblind. So anyways, tonight we are going to talk about license registration. I just want to say hi to anybody that's jumping on.
Yep.
My lovely wife just jumped onto Facebook. Go say hi to her.
I see you.
And anybody that's watching us on YouTube, say hi. Instagram, say hi.
Angels in the outfield.
If I can, Henry, if you could grab the door for me.
Where you want me to bring it?
Henry needs to grab the door and shut it.
Shut the front door.
Because I feel like people are walking around.
Working.
But tonight we are going to discuss our authority. I love this pen thing, except for the whole Michael Jackson. Woo-hoo. Who knows? Maybe I'll start dancing. No, I won't.
You clear the house. Clear it out.
But tonight we're going to talk about authority, and we are going to break it down into 3. I said steps. 3 stages. And these are very important aspects that I think we overlook a lot in our day-to-day life, and simply because of the fact I think we just are ignorant to the actions that we have on a day-to-day basis.
Yep. Y'all ignorant.
Ignorant. And we don't know how to talk. So we decided to start a podcast where all we do is talk.
I know, right?
But as we talked about the last time, we talked about the scope of authority and how different aspects of ministry, different aspects of your life, people had authority over you. And very specifically, we talked about pastors, and we talked about husbands, and we talked about wives and kids and all of these things. And we understood that there was different aspects that you had authority over. So your limitations of your authority.
Yeah.
So I have authority over Henry. That's right. I got authority. No, I have authority over Henry. In this aspect, simply because of
pastoral leadership.
Yeah. And it's not in a way of I have authority to tell him, you know what, scrub my shoes. I have authority to tell him, hey, this is when we're going to start. Hey, this is when I need this done. Hey, this is how I want the podcast to run. Hey, this is what our conversation is going to be about tonight. My authority and the limits of my scope is very narrow.
Yeah. You just took it. So authority has limitations.
Depending on the environment that we're in. Now, when we step out of this office and we are no longer under the umbrella of One Digital Church, my authority shrinks to nothing because now I don't have any authority except for the authority that I have as a friend.
Right. So you have relational authority.
Yes. And that relational authority is to keep Henry out of trouble.
That's the toughest one.
Is to create trouble.
Yeah.
Because authority goes both ways. You can cause havoc and chaos, or you can create a peaceful and strategic environment. That is not me. I am more on the havoc and chaos side.
Yeah.
But you're
preaching right now.
Hallelujah. But there's different aspects to our authority. And the first stage, the first part of this that we're going to dive into is actually I figured a new feature for the screen, y'all. I'm so excited. Tech stuff is amazing.
Bam! If you could only see the twinkle in his eye right now.
You can. But yeah, I got this fancy thing and it does all and it moves and all. It's great. I love this thing. And you can have this too for nothing. I'm not even gonna give it to you. But no, so Proverbs 18, verse 21. Yep. What did you do with my Bible?
I burned it.
I need one of those, where they have all the bars that flash up on the screen and technical difficulties.
Yeah.
When you said that, I should have that flop on the screen and then a bunch of loud noise happening in the background from where you got.
Me.
All right.
I had it right here. See? I got it back.
I got it right here.
All right, old school.
You can get the next one.
Mr. Tech Guy.
All right. 18. Y'all, this is the Bible that I first preached. I studied and preached my first message out of.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to burn that one. Sorry, Jesus.
But it says the tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences.
What version is that?
This is the Bible.
Jeez.
No, I believe this is the NIV.
NIV.
Let me double check. No, yeah, NLT.
Sorry. NLT, right? Yeah, I like that translation.
Read yours since your technology is so better.
Well, this is NET, and as you know, they're all slightly word different. It says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love its use will eat its fruit." Same meaning, just
Yeah,
slightly
just
different way
twisted.
of saying. Yeah.
But this verse
Mhm.
explains to us how we have. This is where I get to use my fancy toy again.
Yeah. Yeah. Power and authority in our tongues.
We have power and authority in our tongue.
Mm-hmm.
We don't understand it a lot of the time. Sometimes we say things out of anger. Sometimes we say things out of frustration.
Yep.
Sometimes we say things out of the goodness in our heart.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard in a church, and I'm probably going to get stoned when I walk outside.
You don't have to go outside. I have some stones.
They're mints. I mean, either way, they're probably going to hurt. But I have heard in a church many people speak things of life
Mm-hmm.
out of misinformation. And sometimes that's even as detrimental as speaking death.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle 101, this isn't,
Mm-hmm.
this is me. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves in prophecy
Oh, yeah.
and prophetic word.
Call that prophesying.
Prophesying. I like that. Some people are very guilty of prophesying,
Mm-hmm.
where unbeknownst to the individual, they're speaking healing into somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
But in that speaking of healing into somebody's life, they're bypassing the will of God.
Exactly. Yeah. I've seen people say that where you're going to be healed by Thursday morning. Just wait on the Lord. And
then Thursday morning comes,
the person gets worse.
and there's no healing.
Right.
Now, I want to preface?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to preface this with saying healing comes in many different shapes, ways,
Yeah.
forms.
Absolutely.
So sometimes when people see healing in the prophetic, they're, I don't want to say wrong, but it's almost misconstrued sometimes or misunderstood, and maybe misspoken to where they do see healing. Sometimes it's maybe in the emotion of a person. Sometimes it's in a relationship of a person, and not in the physical body.
Yeah, because sometimes the natural problem brings about spiritual healing.
Yeah.
Like a death of someone can actually bring two other family members together and cause them to heal and, be able to connect on a different level. So healing happened, but not in the way that maybe was desired in the moment.
Yeah, and there's
Excuse me.
And there's lots of people out there that have been dealing with pain or ailments or different things for so long. And, they do the woe is me. And they speak the death. And that's the other side of that coin is I'm never going to get better. I'm
guilty.
I'm in a miserable place. There's no way I can get out of this. Those words have power.
I was just actually thinking of that this week.
And they have authority over your situation. If you're constantly saying, I'm broke, I'm poor, I'm poor, I'm poor, I'm poor,
you're gonna find it.
Yeah.
100% agree.
There was a quote, and I think I've used it once before. Shoot. It's something along the lines of you will always find an excuse that you're looking for.
Oh yeah.
In everything that we do, and if there's some reason you don't want to do something, or that you don't want to believe in yourself to get through something,
Are you looking for an out?
You will find that excuse. You will find a reason to not do it. Going to the gym. We all do it. You know, all day long, I'll sit at work and be like, man, like once I get done with work, like I feel ambitious to go to the gym. And this is at 1 o'clock. And then at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, like, I feel kind of ambitious.
I'm just maybe? Like, at 2 o'clock, I'm like, man, like, you know, I'm just ready to go home. Or even I'll leave work. And I've had that. I've left work. Ambitious to go to the gym. Gym bag in the back seat.
Man, I missed my turn.
And then all of a sudden, I get to, like, where my turn is supposed to be. And I'd be like, you know, I nah.
Or you just pass it up. Man, you know what? The light was green. So if I would have turned, that would have slowed me down.
Yeah. There's just anything that you can come up with an excuse for, you will. And that is the power and authority that we have with our tongue. Yeah,
because another translation says death and life lies in the tongue.
Yeah.
So, and that's one reason why you have to look at different translations, guys, because sometimes you can gain other understanding and you know, and really hone in that scripture, because sometimes other translations give you a different picture, a different side of it. So it's cool to look at other translations and kind of see how they, you know, marry up to each other or differ.
Yeah. And I want to touch back on, again, what happens in the church. Sometimes the lack of speaking out is just as much of having authority and power over something as speaking out. Sometimes things have to be said.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes people need to be put in their place. Sometimes people need to be comforted. Sometimes people need to be, you know, somebody to put their arm around them and be like, you know what? I feel for you, man. And sometimes saying nothing is just as powerful as saying something.
Like in the book of Job.
Yeah, we just talked about that, where, you know, sometimes just sitting in silence and, you know, being there for the person just to let them know that you're there is enough.
Your presence.
One of my many pet peeves is when somebody passes away and somebody speaks out and says, man, I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
I cannot stand that, because guess what? You don't. We don't have a clue of what the other person is going through. You don't have the relationship that they had. You don't have the experiences that they had with the individual. You don't have the regrets that they have with that specific individual. Though you may have similar situations, maybe you both lost a dad. The relationship, the emotions, everything is different than what you went through.
Right.
The maturity level in their emotions, the strength of their emotions.
Timing when it happened.
Everything.
I lost my dad when I was 5. You lost yours when you were 45. That's not the same.
Yeah.
There's similarities to it, but they're not the same, because what happens if my relationship was broken with my dad and yours, you went fishing with him every weekend? So you don't know how I feel, because I have the loss that I never even knew this guy.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're saying, oh, man, we went out to lunch every day or whatever. It's different.
Because me losing somebody is way different than anybody else that I know, because I'm not an emotional person. So when I lose somebody, like, yeah, like, I'm upset. But that's about as far as it goes. Because there's nothing I can do to change that. And that's just my personality, my temperament, my everything. So it's not going to be the same as you losing somebody. But I say that the reason I bring all of that up is by saying things out of context or out of understanding can be detrimental to the individual.
Yeah.
because sometimes they think they are overreacting or they're underreacting. You know, I've had people say that to me. Oh man, I know what you're going through, and they're a mess. And I'm like, and here I'm sitting here being like,
you're ordering lunch.
it's a Thursday,
Right.
and now I'm like, is there something wrong with me because I'm not getting emotional? And then it creates this, you know, this mental strain of, should I be emotional? Is there something wrong with me?
Well, I really believe that in these situations, that's when we have to allow the Lord's grace to attend us, because everybody's not the same. We're all individual. We're all unique. We're all, you know, special in our own way, and we react to things differently. Like there are things, some things that I'm very dismissive with, and there's other things that I'm wrapped in it. You know, I've had times where I didn't even really know the person, and I got all messed up because I saw something bad happen to them. And then I've had other times where, it's weird. So that just means we're different. So now if I can say, well, you know what, maybe it didn't attend Kyle the way that it did me, that doesn't make Kyle bad or me good. It just makes us different. And so now we administer grace to each other. So where if I'm falling apart, you don't just say, oh man, that guy's a goofball, he's always like falling apart.
Yeah.
Instead, you say, you know what, man, I sympathize with you, because that's what you can do. And now it might take you just to sit and be silent with me and let that time pass, that I'm good. You might not have a reaction to it at all. I don't say, man, that guy's a goofball, he never reacts to anything. What I do is I sympathize with that and say, okay, well, maybe it doesn't, attack him or attend him the way it does me. So then I give grace.
Well, and and it's funny is me and my wife, I know she's watching, but she was wrong. No, I'm just kidding. So the other day, my wife said something to me, and to be completely honest, I couldn't even tell you what it was. We just had a couple days where I think we were getting on each other's nerves. But she had said something, and she said it one way, and I took it negative. What was it? I think it was something to do with like my hair or something along those lines. And like she said something, and then a little bit later she said something again.
Oh, you're trying the Backstreet Boys look, huh?
Yeah. And when it was brought up more than once, I was just like, is there anything else that you have to say about it?
Oh, snap.
And I did. I was very frustrated. And I said, maybe instead of just critiquing every little thing, just say one blanket statement and call it good. Because, when the constant conversation about it like just seems like you're nitpicking, and like that was how I felt, not how she intended it. But as we're talking, there's it's a different kind of power. But you have the power to irritate somebody just with words. You have the power to make somebody sad and mad and happy and all of these different things, and you can create emotion with words,
i.e. death and life in the tongue.
Yeah, and saying sorry creates forgiveness in a person.
Absolutely.
By definition, words create value and have value, and that's why we call them like $5 words, $2 words, whatever. Is it's a joke in a conversation because the length of the word. But words have value. As much as people don't think they do, they genuinely do.
It's like you telling a kid every day, and I've seen it happen, you're a moron.
You're stupid.
And when the kid grows up, you know what they feel like? A stupid moron.
Yeah.
And now that tape plays over and over and over because...
My wife's been telling me that for years. Here I am, talking to everybody about... life. Oh wait, no, they can see me now.
I know.
Just kidding. But
It's the truth.
It's a real thing, and there's wives out there. Thankfully, I can say I'm blessed that my wife's not like this, but there's wives out there that will day in and day out call their husbands losers and idiots and degrade them, and then wonder why they're never happy,
or why the guy underperforms
and becomes distant and becomes unlovable and becomes because there is power. But there's also power and authority over something else, which brings us to our next one, which is not James, not Proverbs. Where am I? There we go.
Luke.
I messed it all up. Everybody's seen my all my other fancy ones. Dang it. Luke chapter 10, verse 19. I'm going to let you go ahead and read that.
So, New English Translation. So this is Luke 10:19. So it says, "Look, I have given you authority to tread on snakes and scorpions, and on the full force of the enemy, and nothing will hurt you."
We have authority and power over the enemy. This is stage 2. Stage 2.
Yep.
We have authority and power over the enemy. Some of that comes off of stage 1.
Yes.
Using the power of our tongue. Using the authority that we have.
Yeah, that's right.
Other parts of it come through our actions. Which actually is going to be part of our next one. But there are so many times when we come up against things, and we come up against turmoil, we come up against, death of a loved one. We come up against sickness. We come up against somebody constantly degrading us and bombarding us with negative thoughts and attitude. We have authority over that.
You'll hear a statement that sometimes people say, "Not today, Satan." So that's
Yeah. Andy Mineo.
But the thing is, though, when something happens, when you know the enemy is coming against you, you have power to speak in that moment and say, "You know what? Not today, Satan. I'm not accepting that." Now, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden now I can make the cloud go away and that's going to happen, because it's still within God's will what might or might not happen. But we can reject certain things outright.
Well, there's a scripture. Bam. Go Bible.
Go that Bible.
If you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain.
Yep.
And that, though it's a widely used and
kind of cliched term.
Yes. It's very much true. In the aspect that mountain that you need to move might be the addiction. That mountain that you maybe need to move is your spouse or a friend or depression or insert whatever. But you have to speak, because the scripture doesn't just stop, "Oh yeah, the mountain will move if you have the faith of a mustard seed." No, it says if you have faith of a mustard seed, speak, and the mountain will move. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. Let me double check that up.
And just real quick while he's looking, sometimes we want to pigeonhole God into this confined way of doing it our way. So we may have to speak to a mountain, and we might ask and say, "Well, God, I need this mountain to move." or we're speaking to the mountain, so to speak, and then God gives us a pickaxe. So is the mountain gonna move? Yes, but it might not be in the fashion or desired way that I want. So what I can't do is I can't pigeonhole God into some kind of way of me forcing his hand to do something that I want the way I want it done. So I might be speaking to the mountain to move, and then God gives me an avenue to have that happen. And so now I don't reject it. I might say, oh, God save me, God save me, God save me. And then a boat comes by and say, nope, that's not the way I wanted it.
So starting in Matthew 17, let me throw this up on
Matthew 17.
17. We're going to start with verse 17 through 21.
Okay.
It says, Jesus said, "You faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me." And then Jesus rebuked the demon in the boy, and it left him.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment, the boy as well. Afterward, the disciples asked Jesus privately, "Why couldn't we cast out that demon?" You know, I didn't even plan this scripture, but it hits perfect. And he said, "You don't have enough faith." Jesus told them, "I tell you the truth. If you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it would move. Nothing would be impossible." Verse 19, I'm gonna repeat that. Why couldn't we cast out that demon? Because you didn't have enough faith. So we ask ourselves, and we have these questions of, well, you say I have authority and power over the enemy, but like I've been struggling with this for years. I've been dealing with this enemy for as long as I can remember. Jesus himself said, nothing is impossible with a mustard seed of faith. And even the disciples, the ones that were with him, struggled with faith. Even after they've seen all the works, after they experienced who he truly was, they still struggled to find that faith.
Right. And it totally makes sense in tying it in that way, because like I said previously, I'm guilty of being sometimes hyper negative. You know what I'm saying? Like when we say the power of death and life are in the tongue, sometimes because of just the environment and the battles I've had, I can be hyper negative, and I have to physically tell myself to kind of get out of that mood because it has power. And so that's another reason why sometimes I struggle with, faith to speak to that mountain, because if you're coming out of a negative place, I've already kind of pigeonholed myself through the power of my own tongue, putting myself in a box. And so in order to get out of that box, then I have to exhibit faith. But my position has already put me in a position where I can't have faith because I'm doubting. So it's kind of a thing that it's a catch-22, right? You draw yourself back into the box, but you say, "Oh, Lord, get me out of the box." And the Lord's saying, "Okay, well, stop getting in the box." So it's,
and I'm gonna break it down pretty simple, or I feel like I'm gonna break this down rather simple to where even those that have never been in a church will understand, because of the society we live in. I feel like we've all had these thoughts. So, you might appreciate the thoughts, you might not appreciate this. Quite frankly, I don't care.
I do declare.
For instance, me, myself,
And
and you, actually, I know this to be true with you as well. There was once a time I was in amazing shape.
I remember that. Help me, Lord.
Then there's a time more recently where I am not in as amazing shape as I once remember.
Can I go now?
To the point of just taking my shirt off to go swimming, I would struggle with.
Mm-hmm. And you hear in the background as people run away.
Or Free Willy.
You turn around and pick up the blow up arm things, and they say, "Oh, it's a full moon tonight." Like, come on, Mom.
and you know, I've struggled with that mentality of not feeling confident.
Yeah.
And not in having that sense of, man, I can't believe I let myself get like this.
Yeah.
And you had that self-doubt, and you had that that lack of self-appreciation. And you kind of fall into this downward spiral, because there's two ways that people come out of situations like that. They either get worse or they get significantly better.
Yeah.
And
because now the visual has matched the verbal. So now it's double weight.
Yeah. And so that's something that's a struggle. That's something that we have to overcome. Women, I know that there are women out there that have the same thing, where, as guys, we see them as beautiful and dare I say it, sexy, and they struggle with the insecurities, especially mothers who have had babies and have stretch marks and everything else. They struggle with the insecurities because it hounds on them every single time they look in the mirror. And again, I'm gonna put some of me and my wife's business out there. I know I've seen outfits where I'm like, hey babe, like that would look great on you. I could never pull that off. You could. No, I can't. And there's this constant back and forth of negativity, where it's like light versus darkness, where you're assuring the individual, wow, like I promise you, like, and I know that there's things that she has a line she won't cross,
right,
because that's her comfort zone,
self-conscious about it.
Yeah. And it's amazing where we dive back into Proverbs 18:21, where the power of a tongue, even if it's your own, how much power that has over your self-worth and self-being.
A lot.
And sometimes you can become your own enemy. And
it's like friendly fire,
And a lot of that is, again, so like for instance, like me going to a beach or whatever and taking my shirt off is, I become my own enemy.
Yep.
I hear somebody snicker and I think they're talking about me.
Yeah.
And
what y'all laughing at?
Or
like, we're watching YouTube, dude. Chill out.
And in reality, nobody could care less.
That's right.
Nobody even. You're too ugly for them to look at, anyways.
And yeah, but you know too, it's a double-sided coin. Now, what I don't ever want to be is I don't ever want to be the far other side of it either. And I think in life we have to have balance. And what I do, I want to be comfortable with who I am and be proud of that. But what I don't want to do is be the guy that walks around with nothing on, thinking that he's the gift to the world either. And
what beach have you went to?
No, and
That's not illegal in most states.
but what I'll tell you is, at times I was that guy. I had that conversation with one of my children to say that even when I was in really, really, really good shape, sometimes along with that came pride. And so what happened is, if I'm a very, very, very fit guy, I I can on purpose wear everything really tight and fitting, so I show off every little crevice that I've etched into my body, and then I can be a stumbling block for someone else. So I have to keep that within reins as well, and I have to not allow my personal fitness goals or my personal way about myself to be then a struggle to someone else as me attempting to do it. Now, if a fit guy walks by and your wife turns and look at him, that's her problem. But if the guy is peacocking so that that might happen, then that's both of their problem now, because the guy is trying on purpose to get that look, and then the wife makes the wrong mistake to do so, to indulge. So we have to own both sides of it. So I have to own the fact that I can't let pride get a hold of me if I ever do get back into shape. And so the thing is, I also see some people that are very, very, very like obese. And what they'll do is they'll walk around with just it all hanging out. Now, I love that kind of tenacity and, you know, being proud of yourself.
Not caretiveness.
Yeah, kind of like carefree, But sometimes that goes just a little bit too far.
Sometimes, well, even in a sense like that, I feel like you still become your own enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I wanted to be. I wanted the takeaway from this to be is sometimes we are our biggest enemy.
Absolutely.
And we need to cycle back to stage one and understand where the power and authority we have in our tongue speaks over ourselves to where we can squash the enemy inside of us.
Right. Absolutely.
Which takes us to our
tres.
Oh, man, I just showed everything off. Man, everything got out of order, and I don't know why. Man.
Poor guy.
Struggles of a techie. But this last one, if you can pull it up for me.
The last one is going to be James 4:7. So James 4:7 says, "So submit to God, but resist the devil, and he will flee from you."
There's another scripture that always reminds me, that I get reminded of when I see the script, this one, and it's where Jesus is being tempted. And so we all know, most of us know, and if you don't, you can look it up. But there's 3 times where Jesus is tempted. And finally, on the 3rd time, like he tells Satan, like he put Satan in his place, and he's just like, flee from me.
Right. His like, patience was done.
Like, I'm done with you. Yeah. Like I've allowed you to put on your parade as long as I've, and he used the power of his tongue to resist Satan and made Satan flee. And there's another scripture that says, I know I'm gonna mess up the wording on it because just blanked as soon as I said that. Though great things yet that I have done, greater things you will do. And this is Jesus speaking to his disciples. And it's amazing that Jesus made Satan flee with just words.
Stop the storm.
And with words.
With words.
And here we are, given the power where Jesus is saying, not only have I done these things, but you will do greater.
I mean, we see it every day. I mean, these little devices in our hands. I mean, Jesus didn't have a smartphone so he can talk to 1 million people, on a podcast. There's some people with podcasts and 4 million people listen to him. That was never Jesus's bandwidth. he could talk to as many people that could hear his voice at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we have tremendous power above and beyond the verbal power that Jesus had to speak to a multitude.
Well, and it's funny. A Jamaican friend of ours
Yeah, man.
today was, on his phone,
Mm-hmm.
and we're in the Chicago area, and he has a Wi-Fi camera
Mm-hmm.
set up at his house
Mm-hmm.
in Jamaica,
Mm-hmm. Ain't that something? That's crazy.
and he gets a notification that there was movement.
Mm-hmm.
So he pops on his phone and he looks at it and he's like, "Oh, they're dropping off bricks because they're doing a project down there." And he's
That's
keeping an eye
crazy.
on this project and on his mom and everything else
In Jamaica.
from thousands of miles away.
That's insane, man.
And he's like, "Man," he's like, "Can you believe this?" And we actually had the conversation about it. He's like, "Man, can you believe this? Like 1,000+ miles away, 1,800 miles away
In real time.
in real time
Crazy.
with just seconds of a delay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to check up on mom."
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
If Jesus had the power that we have at our fingertips to do what he did then, now,
Mm-hmm.
what would the world be like?
You know, the funny thing is like when they separate and all of a sudden Peter hears, "I just saw what you did." Come on, Jesus. Give me a break.
Hey Judas, we caught you in 4K walking out of that building. What you got in your hand?
I know.
Looks like silver to me. I saw you talking to him.
Yeah, I know. Now, we're obviously we're making light of the situation, but the truth of the matter is that we have so much access that, I mean, and we discount the access we have, and we discount the power of which we do have. And I remember one person that spoke to his son that way and always had negativity to say to him about how he was never going to amount.
Would you stop talking about my dad?
Sorry, Papa Spence.
Totally kidding. He only talks about Henry like that.
I know, right? Yeah. But, and I remember this kid, he owned it. There was a point in time when everything that had been said about him, he then owned it. And this kid was a terror. I mean, he was so bad and so dangerous in the area that I lived in that even the elderly would walk on the other side of the street when he was coming because he had no remorse. He was a loser because that's what he had been told his whole upbringing. He was a savage. When people say that word today and they use it thrown around, this kid was a savage. And the reason he was like that, I wholeheartedly believe, is because he bought into the message that had been talked to him every day by a toxic person, which was his parents. So they talked to this kid like this because their lives were miserable. So they spoke that into him. And this kid was such a savage that he could murder someone and not even have a thought about it. And so I got to see in real time what you're displaying and what you're unpacking for the audience to say that there is much to say about what the death and life in the tongue is. And these three elements of it kind of give us a, kind of like you take something, you put it all into a nice package. And so now people can grasp it. And now with the technology we have, now people can go back, listen to it again, and then apply it.
And I think that's, so I want to cycle back to something that I said at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And this will kind of get us wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
Is I said that last week we spoke on the scope of authority
Mm-hmm.
and how it is limited to the area of authority given to them
Mm-hmm.
or given to the individual. For instance, wife to wife or wife to husband, husband to wife, wife to kids, pastor to church member, so on and so forth. All of those roles have a very specific scope of authority. But I want everybody, I want to talk about one area where scope of authority doesn't fall. And it's what we just unpacked. Your tongue has zero scope of authority. It doesn't matter who you talk to, how you talk to them, where you talk to them. It has power and authority in every situation.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether I were to talk to the president of the United States, all the way down to a homeless person, walking down the street, and everywhere in between, I have power and authority in the words I speak.
Yeah.
Because I'm either going to be dismissed or accepted, or I'm going to dismiss or accept.
You have the power to heal and to cut.
Yeah. And our tongue doesn't see any scope of authority.
So equal opportunist, huh?
Now I go back to what we talked about the last time. Because our tongue has, or our words don't have a scope of authority, it causes us sometimes to step outside of our scope.
Right.
Our role scope. So the authority that you have over me or my wife, and the authority I have over you and your wife, though it's non-existent, sometimes our spoken word oversteps those boundaries.
Right.
And it all comes together based off of what comes out of our mouth. And that's what I want to leave everybody with.
Yeah.
That's where the rubber meets the road is our tongue has so much power that we really need to be more strategic, more deliberate in the things that we say and do. Because, does this dress make me look fat?
Move. Right before you get slapped.
Exactly. Though, who knows? Maybe the answer's yes, maybe the answer's no. Depending on the situation, that could have a detrimental effect on the future of that person.
Absolutely. And there's some relationships where you can make that comment and have no problem at all.
Because of the context of the relationship and because of the scope of each other's authority.
Yep.
Things are so much... handled so much better when they're done within the scope of your authority.
Yep. So with my wife, I wouldn't say, oh yeah, that dress makes you look fat. But my friend, I would. Because the scope of the relationship is different. Me and my friend may chide each other and toy with each other a little bit more aggressively than I would with my wife or my kids.
Again, me standing out in the middle of the highway saying, stop in the name of the law. Versus a cop standing out in the middle of the parking or middle of the road with his hand out saying, stop.
Yep.
One, I'm going to get ran over. The other one, they're going to stop because the authority and the scope that it falls in is different.
Yep. Night and day.
So practice and understand the power and authority that you have.
And the scope.
In every aspect of your life. in every relationship from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. And that's all we have today.
Amen.
We love you guys. We appreciate you. If you like the format, if it's a little bit better and easier for you guys to follow, let us know. If you guys have any suggestions, I don't care, but you guys can leave them in the comments anyways. No, I'm totally playing. If you guys do have suggestions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. If they are feasible and within the scope of what we're able to accomplish, we will do our best to do so. But as you guys know, we have limited some of our abilities by location.
Now, and remember, y'all supposed to be nice because we just talked about the power in the tongue. So y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all don't be telling Kyle how bad that shirt look on him.
I mean, it looked real bad. But all right, y'all. We love you. We care about you.
Yep.
As always, until next.